Well, let's introduce you so people know what we're talking about and introduce ourselves. I'm Brad. This is Mary Claire.
Hello.
And
Hey,
you're, of course, Kevin Kling. And you're an author, a playwright, a storyteller. Basically, we're going to talk about a little bit of that today. But you're coming to Toledo.
that's
Um,
r-
yeah. Have you
that's
been
right.
before? Have you been in
Uh,
the neck of the woods before?
I've been in the neck, but I haven't actually started. I've blown through Toledo too many times, and I
Yeah.
I have to admit it's going to be nice to put my feet down.
Yeah.
Um, I'm really looking forward to it. Uh,
We look
yeah,
forward to having you. And that's going to be on Wednesday, September 20th. It's at 7 o'clock, right? 7 to 9 p.m.
yeah.
This is at the Toledo School for the Arts at their Black Box Studio, which is on Adams Street in Toledo, actually not far from where I live. So I may have to show my face at the event. Yeah, well, it's great that you're getting a chance to share your artistry with the students as well. You're going to be in residence for a couple of days. So people probably know you from lots of different things. I mean, you've been telling stories on All Things Considered. You've, of course, written a bunch of plays. You've written books with interesting titles. I was just watching an interview with you and Krista Tippett talking about the dog how book and the cat meow book and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, people can find a lot of information about you online and watch interviews. But let's start with this. Talk a little bit about your background, yourself, and sort of the elevator pitch of
Okay.
of what you're offering and what you have experienced in your life.
Great. Well, I think the first thing people notice about me, so I'll get the elephant right out of the room, is that my arms are different than each. They're different than yours and different than each other. My left arm is shorter than my right arm. I have only four fingers on that side, and I was born with my arm that way. My right arm, I lost the use of that in a motorcycle accident 23 years ago.
Mm.
And so my left arm used to not do very much, and now it does everything. And so I think that's the first thing people notice. And so when I work with kids, especially, I say, if you want a high five when we're done, well, you're out of luck, but we can high four all day.
Yeah, we'll take
So
it.
yeah, that's the first thing people notice. But I started storytelling when I was just a kid. I just enjoyed it so much. I loved making my parents laugh. That was so fun. And even to this day, it was this way of connecting. And when I'm done with the storytelling, if a kid comes up and says, "You're almost as good as my grandpa," I know I nailed it.
That's
And so I'm
great.
always, yeah, I'm trying to find those connections still today. And when I went to college, I found out fast, your night before was only as good as your ability to tell about
And
it.
as far as
So
we know, anything you say is what happened, right?
exactly. So
Yeah.
I think a little of my embellishment came into play there.
Yeah.
Uh,
How you talk about your arm, right? And I'm wondering the part that you were born with, this is before the motorcycle accident. How did that influence you as a storyteller? How did that influence you in your ability to connect with people?
yeah, that is a great question. I think that is the crux of. I know I'm a storyteller because of my left arm. Part of it is rhetoric. People use different words around me than they did other kids. And so I heard different words, and I always was seeing the world from another perspective. And as a storyteller, that is crucial. You're always, what is my perspective? What can I bring to this no one else can? What is this view of society, of people, of family that I can bring that is unique? And when you're born with a disability, it's just built into you. And so I really credit my disability with why I'm a storyteller and why I love words. Yeah.
Yeah. What can we expect from you on Wednesday night? You're going to be telling a story, or you're going to tell a bunch of stories? I mean, do you think about that before you go and actually do it? Do you have a plan, or do you just kind of tell stories as you go, like those college stories?
Yeah. Yeah, a little of both. I come in with a plan, and then the audience usually gives me clues as we're going along. Like, okay, we've laughed enough. Now what do you got? Or they'll say, or I can just tell, we just want to keep laughing. Let's just keep laughing. And so then we will do that. And so there's about halfway through, the audience has given me enough clues, and then that's when I can take off. And I'm loaded with hundreds of stories, and so I can go in so many different directions. And now I've done it for 40 years, so I've kind of got a feeling of how to move this. So it'll be a little bit of both. It'll be fun. Humor is so important to me. And especially, and I think I've said this every year for 40 years, especially this year, especially now. We really, laughter is so important to us. And when you laugh with people, your family, that's one of the things I love about it. People think that laughter and humor is it's universal. It really isn't universal. When you laugh with somebody, you have a connection already, a connection that was there before you met, whether it was through family or faith or community. And so when we laugh together, we recognize each other as family. And so that's why I use it a lot for bridging, like being a person with a disability, being a person not from Toledo, being a person, that's different than other people in the audience. The first thing in a storyteller you try to do is connect. Where are we the same? And then we can get to where are we different and embrace those differences later.
Yeah.
Since you do love to use humor so much, how would you say the way you use it is similar to or different than, say, a stand-up comedian?
That's another great question. You're really getting to it. This is good because I really equate what we do a lot of times with stand-up. But a stand-up comedian really closes a door with a joke. They're really they're aiming to end with a joke. A storyteller uses a joke to open a door. A storyteller so we don't close the door with a joke, we open it, because once we get people laughing, now we can get to the other stuff, the deeper stuff. And so I wouldn't let a good joke go to waste. I'm not going to end there. We're going to get to the real stuff.
I feel like we're having a master class in storytelling right now.
Well, you're asking the master questions. I've got to hand it to you. These are big ones. Yeah.
Well, what do you tell basically high school students that may be interested in what you do and applying that to their own lives? I mean, what is the biggest piece of advice you can give a young storyteller wannabe?
Well, I think the key to storytelling is to be the expert of your own story. Why are you the person that should be telling this story? What do you bring to this story that no one else can? And because of their age and where they're from, why are you the expert? And they are the expert. They know their world way better than we ever will. And so what are they bringing to the pantheon? What are they bringing, that I can't carry on? I mean, I'm already feel antiquated in many ways. When I tell stories, I'm on my way out. Who's coming next? And I just hope I didn't wreck it. I hope I didn't wreck the art form, that I left something behind to be picked up. And that's why when I work with young people, I'm so heartened, because they're such naturally wonderful, amazing storytellers. And I keep thinking technology is ruining the art form. I couldn't be further from the truth. There's a wonderful economy of language now, a wonderful use of language now that we didn't have when I was that age. And so the ability to tell stories is still there, if not stronger than ever. And now there's a whole new technique that is coming into the world that wasn't there when I was there. So I always leave on cloud 9. Whenever I work with young people, I leave just thinking, oh man, all right, we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine.
Yeah. You talk about technology changing, and there's a lot of stuff out there. I wanted to ask you about artificial intelligence, and my kids get a big kick out of sending a prompt for a story and then sitting back and seeing what it spits out. I mean, what's your take on AI as far as it goes to storytelling?
Well, as I get older, the artificial part of it is more and more intriguing to me.
You and me both.
The organic part is leaving. So bring in the artificial. You know what? I haven't done it yet. I haven't tried it. I have friends, especially that write speeches that just love it because they just plug in whatever they need to plug in. And I know I will one day. But I have such a great time coming up with stories. I love doing it so much that I think what people think is work is really the fun for me. And so the reason why people plug things in and have something else do it are the reasons I'm in it. It just gives me a rush when a story is working and I know it before the audience. So I'm already either laughing or crying. And I do have to tell people every story that brings a tear cost a tear. That I probably the first time I told it was crying or sobbing or laughing, whichever one it is. And then I get to the point where now I'm in control of the story. And now it's in my vernacular. It's the way I see the world. And then I bring that to the audience. And then hopefully they will have that experience I did initially. So that's for artificial intelligence. Yeah, that's my favorite part of the job. And so I don't want to give that to anybody.
I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your process of creating a story, say from scratch. I mean, you've written plays and books and you've told many stories. How much of it is written down? How much of it is just something that comes to you naturally? I mean, if you can talk a little bit about the craft of what you do.
Yeah, I come from, I guess you'd call the oral tradition, which means I don't really write the story down, but I'll have signposts and I'll remember. A story always starts with a moment where we go, oh, either that was a great moment or that was a really moving part of my life or that was amazing. I've got to tell people about that. Well, when did that amazing thing really happen? How far back can you go that got you to that amazing thing? I always say, like a vacation, there's the trip you plan and then there's the trip you take. And the story is the trip you plan and then there's the trip you take, and it's never the same. Oh my God, it's never, nothing ever works out. So a part of the craft for me is getting it up in front of people as soon as possible. And you're going to take your lumps, I have to admit. Every storyteller that goes through this, the first time you tell a story, chances of it working isn't very high. But you learn from that, and then you learn the next time, and then you learn more the next time, and the story will take form if you do it that way. It holds together through invisible threads instead of visible threads. There's a wonderful author, David Abrams, and he says, with kids, tell kids story before you read them stories, because you're creating imagery in their minds. You're conjuring imagery in their minds. And that's what you want to do with a story. You don't want to conjure words. You want to conjure images. You want to conjure worlds. And so when you're speaking with that in mind, that's what you're doing. You're conjuring these great worlds and these, and inside the only person's mind. Like when that kid comes up and says, "You're almost as good as my grandpa," he's thinking of his grandpa, or she's thinking of her grandpa, So that's what I love too, is that I'm providing this tapestry where they're providing all the colors and all the worlds and they're populating it with the characters from their own lives.
Wow. That's so interesting and inspiring as well. Yeah.
Do you find when you are telling and retelling these stories and fine tuning, do you ever add these embellishments, or if your memory gets a little hazy, how does the story evolve over time? And how much do you feel like you want to keep it really true to the facts versus, like you say, just letting people sort of fill in with their imagination?
Yeah, I think everybody's different in that regard. I mean, I know storytellers that say, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story, and they're embellishments.
That's my life right there.
Well, I try to stick to the truth as much as possible, because there's something about the truth that is even more mind-blowing than fiction in my mind. Things happen to me that are like, there's no way I can make this up. So what I will do though is I tell stories a lot from a kid's perspective. And some of them are questions I have as an adult. So I'll go back to, what age should I have learned that? What age and what experiences did I have at that age? Can I put this question I have as an adult? And so sometimes I'll play with time that way. And I'll move a question I have today back to a certain time. Or I'll move I'll speed time up. If there are things that happen in a car, say on a family vacation, and they were several vacations, I'll roll them into one. But they all did happen. They all did happen on vacation. But if I roll them into one, I can get them all in to one family vacation. So those are the two times I stretch with things a little bit. But by and large, I'm still so amazed with the truth. I haven't had to veer from it.
Yeah. What are the differences and the similarities between the different ways that you create these stories, like through plays or through books? How does that differ from your storytelling in person, what you do for people?
Another really great question, because when I went to writing from storytelling, I realized I create so much of the mood through my delivery, through, how do I deliver? How is my enthusiasm carrying this story where it wouldn't do that on the page? So I defined ways in writing that I could create. Does that mean make shorter sentences? What words do I use when I write that I wouldn't use in a story? Mark Twain tells a beautiful story. He writes it as he tells it, and then he writes it as he writes it. And they're two almost completely different stories. And Mark Twain even says, if I was to tell this story like I write it, it would bore you to tears. And if I were to tell it to you like, if I was to write it like I tell it to you, you wouldn't even understand it. It doesn't even make any sense. And so they are really different art forms. And plays, again, are a whole different art form. Plays, I find most of all, it's what is unsaid in a play that is what you're trying to get across. Like, you've got these characters that are saying things, but we're always figuring out the situations and the people and figuring out what's in between the words. The only exception is Shakespeare. But so I always say, if you're not Shakespeare, don't do it. Because for some reason, Shakespeare could get away with telling everything. But I love that it's the unsaid in a play, because that's what holds the tension.
What was it about writing plays and writing it down, following that path, that attracted you to do it? Why did you do that instead of just focusing on pure storytelling?
Well, when I wrote plays, I got good grades, and when I wrote stories, I got terrible grades. And it's because I wrote with a voice in mind. I always had someone's voice, and we don't speak very grammatically correctly. We're not very right on when we speak grammatically. And so I found that even when I wrote, I still wrote with a voice. I still wrote where I heard it. And that's why I always tell people, students especially, go back and find your mentors. Who's speaking to you through time, find the writers, find the storytellers that really sing to you. And so I found that it was the writers that wrote with a voice, whether it was Flannery O'Connor or Mark Twain, or again, that when I read it, I could actually hear the voice coming off of the page. And so I found that, I really wrote more with a voice. And that was the direction why I went into playwriting, why I went into storytelling, was because that was the kind of, and granted, it was on the page, but I wanted to lift it from the page.
Right.
You mentioned mentors. Is that what you hoped? Is that your goal for when you visit Toledo for your residency? Is that, and speak to these students? What will that look like? How will you be working with them?
Well, that is what I hope. I hope that both as an example in the performance, but then working with the students. I always said, I thought I can retire when I'm required reading. That was my dream. I want to be required reading somewhere. And so to be a mentor to someone, again, and it is great to have a connection with the audience, but to have a connection with a student that is, again, passing this art form down to the next generation, that again, that I help provide, that I've added my contribution to the Pantheon and now have passed it to the next. That is the dream of all dreams for me and most people I know in the arts, is that we know that the legacy is going to be carried on. And again, going back to this evening with coming to Toledo with Pamela Hollenbeck, it is all about legacy. This whole event is really about her legacy and passing it on So in some ways, I feel like I'm the next member of her legacy that then is passing it on to this next generation, because she was so effective and so moving and so wonderful to people, and especially, you know, young people. And how do we keep this going? Because I love this art form so much that I can't imagine it going away. I need it. It's like students, people need to know this. And storytelling is such a crucial way to go through thresholds, to go through things in life that are hard to understand. Because when you can tell a story about something, it doesn't control you anymore. It's how you start taking control of your own life. So when a student can tell a story about something in their lives, I know they've started to take control over that thing because it's through their perspective. There's a great Zimbabwe saying, until the lion tells the story, the hunter will always be the hero. And it's really true. So until you take control of your story, it will be telling you.
Yeah, I feel like we've had an entire storytelling session already
Absolutely.
this morning. Absolutely. Kevin Kling is having an evening of storytelling, I should say, at the Toledo School for the Arts, a performance that honors, as you mentioned, this is the 5-year anniversary of the Pam Hollenbeck Guest Artist Fund. This is happening on Wednesday, September 20th, 7:00 p.m. at the Toledo School for the Arts Black Box Studio in Adams Street. We're so glad that you have a chance to visit our fine city, and instead of just blowing through, you get to spend a little time. So we look forward to having you in Toledo. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
talking.
Thank you both. This has been great. Yeah, you were on it. Your questions were fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it. And and you're a Great Lake town, so you know anybody on the Great Lake is cool by me.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.